Right now, Governor Romney's got a headache on his hands, and it's not of his own making. Indiana Republican senatorial hopeful Richard Murdoch said abortion. Well, he said some very problematic comments about it. We'll show you what he has to say. And this is a person that Mitt Romney had previously endorsed. And with just 13 days to go, is Obama the underdog or the favorite? Plus, what is going on with the youth vote? Well, 2008 as well, remember, that youth vote helped get Obama into the White House as hordes of young people here, pumped up by the promise of change, turned out like numbers we haven't seen in recent memory. Well, how about 4 years later? We're going to go live to college campus in our region, St. John's, to take the pulse of the 30 and under set. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RFL. I'm Richard French, and thanks so much for joining us this Wednesday evening, October 24th. That's right. 13 days. We're under 2 weeks here until this election that seemed to go on forever rapidly comes to a close. And the race, it is tight. Romney up by about a half a point. Some other polls coming out, though, late today all over the place, but every one here having Romney up by some degree. Nate Silver of The Times still has Obama ahead when it comes to the electoral vote. But just to tell you, you talk to 10 different pollsters, you get 10 different ideas. Most will argue this thing is going to be a razor-thin margin one way or the other. But the big news is today is that 2 hours after first being briefed of the attack on the U.S. consulate in Benghazi, a government email to the White House has emerged. The State Department and the FBI said that an Islamic group, Ansar al-Sharia, had claimed credit for the attack. Again, this 2 hours after the attack. Now, the initial email was sent while the attack, in fact, was still going on, and another email arrived 2 hours later, sent from a State Department address to various government agencies, including the Executive Office of the President. However, the group denied responsibility for the attacks the following day. The emails, or the email, I should say, raises questions about the apparent confusion in the immediate aftermath of the attack, which left Ambassador Christopher Stevens, as we all know, as well as 3 other Americans, dead. Initially, the administration indicated the attack fueled by a spontaneous mob reacting to an anti-Muslim video, not a pre-planned attack. The issue certainly has become a political football.
Because it took the president 14 days before he called the attack in Benghazi an act of terror.
Get the transcript.
The White House says that the email is part of many different reports that were coming in that particular day, and the Secretary of State, Hillary Clinton, advised reporters to hold judgment on this until a review panel finishes investigating what happened.
The Independent Accountability Review Board is already hard at work looking at everything, not cherry picking, one story here or one document there, but looking at everything, which I highly recommend as the appropriate approach to something as complex as an attack like this. Posting something on Facebook is not, in and of itself, evidence. And I think it just underscores how fluid the reporting was at the time and continued for some time to be.
Now, the Secretary there referring to the fact that the initial reports were based on the fact that the al-Qaeda affiliate claimed responsibility on Facebook and Twitter. Okay. Is this a big problem for the president, or is this a one-day news cycle story? Let's bring in our panel on this. Darren Rigger, Democratic strategist, partner at Dynamic SRG. He's worked on campaigns of Bill Clinton, Al Gore, Charlie Rangel, John Hall. I almost said Dominic Carter. No, Dominic Carter is not campaign, but Dominic's political journalist and author. And, of course, one of our favorites, Tom Doherty, Republican strategist, former advisor to Governor George Pataki, and partner at Mercury. All right. Listen, Dom, I'll say this much. Roles reversed here. I'd say magically this comes out a day or two after the final debate here, the debate on foreign policy. All of a sudden, this story now coming out. I understand what the Secretary was saying there when Secretary Clinton said, listen, the amount of fluid stuff that was coming in, for anybody to say that you could have created a qualified, definable picture about what happened in the chaos in Benghazi, you're kidding yourselves. But the timing does seem a bit curious.
Well, I would tend to say that I would agree with the Secretary of State. So I guess me and you disagree a little bit right here. You can't say something that's factual. I see Tom frowning already. When it's based on a posting on Facebook.
You're saying this credibly, right?
There's with a straight face.
Dominic, there is not a person on any side of the aisle that today doesn't believe this was a terrorist attack, plain and simple.
Oh, no,
there
no,
are
agree with
there
that.
are not any CIA operatives or military personnel who within 24 hours of the attack were posting their remarks to say there is no way this is mob related. The attack was pre-planned. The fact that this administration went out for 2 clear weeks talking about a stupid video that, first of all, nobody here or nobody in the country knew about it and actually incited riots in other places of the world over the video, and then we spend $70,000 to apologize to the world for a video that nobody knew about is outrageous. And the fact is, if they really wanted to get to the bottom line on this thing, which they've already started to do, they would have done it. They're waiting until after the election because they know what the facts are.
But Richard, these are all talking points to get Governor Romney elected.
How are they talking points?
That's what this is all about.
Put it this way. All I'm saying is, I think under the fog of an attack, in this particular case, forget it for war, a lot of confusing stuff happened. I get that. I do think they screwed up talking about the video for as long as they did. That said, to say that there was some coherent cabal here to try and mislead everyone, I believe when 3 people know about a secret, it's not a secret anymore, especially in Washington.
Richard,
this thing was going to get out.
Considering it was the eve of the 9/11 attack anniversary and that movie had just gone out, the chatter, the international chatter that must have been coming across our embassies from dozens, not just that country, from dozens of countries around the world, I bet you almost every single one of them had messages saying, hey, there's activity in our countries.
Explain this to me.
What's
all of a sudden now, we get the timeline a couple hours after the attacks, conveniently, I'll say it, a day or 2 after the last debate on foreign policy, the timing does smell a little curious. All right, next up.
This whole thing shouldn't have been politicized.
All right, next up here, a headache for Mitt Romney. I said off the top, not of his making here, but many times in politics, headaches aren't of your own creation. Indiana Republican Richard Murdoch last night said in a senatorial debate that a pregnancy that results from rape is something God intended.
I came to realize life is that gift from God, and I think even when life begins in that horrible situation of rape, that it is something that God intended to happen.
Okay, now, just in case it wasn't clear enough, he doubled down on it when he was pressed after the debate.
I mean, God creates life. Does God want people raped? Of course not.
But you believe that abortion should be outlawed even in cases of rape?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, Murdoch, you'll remember, made a splash earlier in the campaign for his take on the idea of compromise.
I have a mindset that says bipartisanship ought to consist of Democrats coming to the Republican point of view. You know, I've said many times through this campaign that one of the things I hope to do is to help build a conservative Republican majority in the United States Senate and continue to help the House build a Republican majority and have a Republican White House. And then bipartisanship becomes having Democrats come our way.
Okay. Now you say, why is this a headache for Mitt Romney? What does he have to do with what this guy had to do? It's because he wrapped his arms around him, albeit before the debate last night.
This fall, I'm supporting Richard Murdoch for Senate. As state treasurer, Richard worked with Governor Daniels to balance the budget and make government more accountable. As senator, Richard will be the 51st vote to repeal and replace government-run health care. Richard will help stop the liberal Reid-Pelosi agenda.
Now, Romney, of course, doesn't agree with what his friend, or at least his then friend in Indiana, thinks about rape here and God's divinity in that. But his team issued a statement, in fact, making it clear Murdoch and him not BFFs. Governor Romney disagrees with Richard Murdoch's comments, and they do not reflect his views. You know, if this sounds familiar as a kind of a storyline, it should. Remember Todd Akin, obviously, and what that senatorial candidate had to say. Missouri senator who said, you know, basically, you know, some comments that we're not even going to get into right now, how bad they were. Point is, there's 2 problems, I think, Tom. One is, in both cases, you had a Republican at the time that they said these beyond tone-deaf comments about rape and pregnancy and abortion. Akin was ahead in Missouri when he said it. Now he's behind by most polls, if not double digits, close to it. Murdoch was up 5 points before last night, and I don't know what the number is going to be, but he's going to take a big hit. Either way, the question has to come to Mitt Romney, who then has to answer it. With 13 days left, we'll talk about this hour. It's all about news cycles. You don't want to, even if nobody's going to say that this is Romney's position, you don't want to have to be connected to something like this, and he has to answer the question.
No, he doesn't. He immediately sent out a statement and said, I disagree with Murdoch on this position. End of story. This doesn't affect Mitt Romney. No, of course it does. Listen, let me ask you a question.
Because it's his party, and he's a standard bearer for his party.
Richard, let's look at
the story just started.
Wait,
Right, it just started.
Okay, and that's good. But let's look at history, because we have history. We have the Akin situation. Akin said what he said. Did it affect Mitt Romney's numbers? Certainly hasn't seen that show up anywhere. I mean, those are just the facts. I mean, the American people,
you're right, but
the American people aren't dopes, okay?
2 weeks out from an election.
It's
2 weeks
affected the
out from an
numbers.
election. All right.
How has it affected the numbers?
I didn't think the gender
His
gap
numbers-
between Mitt Romney and Obama could get bigger, and it seems to be increasing.
In what poll are you looking
know
at?
what, Tom,
the gender
even-
gap since the convention
Tom,
has just shrunk.
But Tom, even if it doesn't impact the numbers,
it doesn't.
As we're looking at Mr. Romney, who's hugging President Obama and saying, me too, and he's trying to move so far from the right to the middle, this reaffirms of his headaches coming from the far right. This is his worst case scenario. He's trying to redo himself.
Dominic, you go show me the next time Gallup, Rasmussen, or anybody does a poll, and you show me where in that poll it shows the candidate from Indiana being a problem for Mitt Romney. It will not show up. It doesn't matter in the least.
But Tom, this doesn't remind voters that Romney's conservative.
What do you mean conservative?
Conservative in terms of what he was in the primary. How conveniently they forget these days how conservative he was in the primary.
And Romney didn't do two things. He didn't retract his endorsement, and he hasn't called on that ad to be taken down yet. And until he does that, he still stands by his man.
I don't think that in politics. I mean, listen, you've been around a long time in Democratic politics. I mean, you really believe that because somebody makes one stupid comment, okay? Listen, and quite frankly, when I saw the comments physically for the first time, I clearly understand why some people would have a real problem with it. But you got to understand something, is there are a lot of people that, good, bad, or indifferent, who think that God has a divine intervention plan for all of us.
Well,
somebody dies or whatever the case is. That's God's plan or whatever
I know
the case
this isn't your opinion.
It's not my opinion.
I know it's not. All right, clear it's not. But I think when people say anything that has to do with a rape and God's plan, and they put the two together.
I understand that.
I don't care whatever faith there is, they're going to have separation. I agree with you, but I also think when you have to make connections of two thoughts, it more often than not gets lost. The broader point is no one's going to think Mitt Romney believes what this guy does. And I think unless you're in Indiana, they're not going to make the inside baseball connection. But I do think this. The idea of women and social issues, they don't want, the GOP doesn't want to be talking about this. Certainly the Romney campaign doesn't want to be talking about this between now and the election.
Can I just throw this out to you? Because I thought a little bit about this. And rape is just horrible. And throw the guy, lock him up. You know how we feel about that. But when somebody says, a small little child gets leukemia or whatever, and a parent says, this is horrible, but this is God's plan. Do we say anything about that? Seriously, Richard.
Well, think about it. Let me answer your question, though. Let me answer your question. If the parent said that about their own child.
What if a minister said it? A minister said about the child. He was with the child. The family was at church.
I happened to be there once where somebody of clergy once said that to somebody, and I saw the parent turn around and said, "No, not the God I believe it would have had my kid go through."
Okay.
That. So I know what you're trying to say. I do, but I really hate, just personally, when people impose their beliefs on what another person in a traumatic event should or shouldn't feel. So, okay.
It's not going to affect Romney.
Now, these October surprises, we always talk about it here, but surprise, surprise, even if we're not going to get one this year, it's not stopping some folks from trying, including the Donald. His big bad October surprise turned out to be, well, just more publicity for Donald Trump. His announcement this afternoon was that he's offering to donate $5 million to a charity of the president's choosing if the president releases his college application records and transcripts along with his passport application by the end of the month. And on the flip side, Gloria Allred, who also doesn't shy away from the camera, she's in Massachusetts and might have a surprise of her own. Massachusetts court sided with the Boston Globe to have the 91 testimony of Mitt Romney that he gave in a divorce case of one of his key supporters made public. That supporter is Staples founder Tom Stenberg. His ex-wife, along with her lawyer Gloria Allred, appeared at the Norfolk Probate and Family Court today to support the release of the Republican presidential candidate's testimony. Allred says she believes the public has a right to know what Mitt Romney's testimony under oath was. The case is expected to continue till Thursday morning. Now listen, it should be noted on the Romney thing, which I also think is much ado about nothing, he's been saying for a long time, unseal the records. The Staples CEO said, the hell you will. You keep my divorce proceedings undercover. So we'll see where this thing turns out. I don't know where Allred's going this. But, Dominic, I'm sorry. I'm going to play the race card here before you even get to it. The stuff that Trump's doing, forget about the birther stuff and everything else.
I'm glad you're saying it.
Brother Dominic,
I'm glad you're saying it.
This is
so I don't have to do
offensive here, and it's completely because he's a black guy.
Really? 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 You know, I can't say what I really want to say because we're on live television.
Would you release your college transcripts?
Oh, God.
Of course.
So would I. So what's the problem?
Are you kidding me?
But you know what?
They never
But you know what?
When's the last guy was asked to release his transcripts? When's the last guy someone showed his passport application? You have your passport application lying around? I mean, come on.
I can find it, I guess, but I'm just saying that I would just give it. What's the big deal? I don't care. It doesn't matter to me, but just give it.
My biggest October surprise is that Donald Trump is still relevant. I mean, how is people still listening to this guy?
You know what? Full disclosure, I've had a great relationship with Donald Trump. He praised me in his book. But who the hell is Donald Trump to demand that the President of the United States do anything? Who is he? I'm sorry, Mr. Trump. I'm sorry, Mr. Trump. You're not Mr. Trump.
I pay his salary.
Mr. Trump, we have been cool in the past.
You are not the same guy, Tom. Go give me this. Who said that Mitt Romney shouldn't have to release all his tax returns? So is it Mitt Romney shouldn't have to release all his tax returns? And the president's got to go dig out his passport application?
Richard, no. I don't think he should have to. But my point is, you hear this carnival stuff because he won't. I don't think it has any bearing on the election. I don't care if he does or not.
Tom, Donald Trump says release it, so you have to do it.
It's $5 million.
Wait.
$5 million. I can help a lot of sick kids somewhere.
No. Seriously.
Reverend Rice should build a new church with that $5 million.
Seriously, wait.
Because he was on the call recently.
Who is Donald Trump?
Who is Donald Trump? I would almost like him to do it because you and I both know the check would bounce.
Who is Donald? The check would bounce. I didn't say that much.
Oh, you're going after Trump now. Oh,
fraud.
Let's get him on the line. Donald, Dominic's dissing you.
I've always been a fan of his, but I mean, but come on, Mr. Trump.
You're not.
You're going too far. This is outrageous. You are not elected King of America.
You are not going to the Trump Tower
now.
Right. Keep the conversation online. Go to Facebook, Twitter, sound off. Will there be an October surprise in this election?
You would have
still possible time.
You would have brother tonight.
I feel you. I'm feeling it. Right. So when we come back, we ask, where the heck is Bill Clinton? And why isn't he, for the life of me, campaigning for the president? Could really Obama be pulling a Gore of 2000 here and keeping the one thing he's got going here under wraps? We'll talk about that after this.
He's keeping himself under wraps.